Hello and welcome to Jolineknitsalot. This is my show about knitting and crafting and the things I get up to here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. How are you? My family and I are just back from a little fall break and we had a great time. We were in New York City for a few days. We left on a Thursday, we came back late on a Tuesday, and we got around. We were lucky enough to see a few museums, specifically with some pretty famous art and some impressive animal bones. We also saw a few shows and rode the subway and the train. We got around. So we had a really great time in New York. And let me tell you, traveling with older teenagers is very different from traveling with younger children. They're older, they can do more things, they're interested in more things instead of being dragged places, which is really nice. We had a really great time. In fact, my oldest daughter said this might have been one of her most favorite trips. So that's something. I didn't make it to any yarn stores, partly because I didn't want to take time away from our family trip, and it would have taken us a bit of time to get to any of the yarn stores I was interested in, and partly because I was just having a great time enjoying family time. The dog didn't come. He had a great time with my in-laws, and they spoiled him. But now he's a little needy now that we're home. Hey, Blue. So I didn't make it to any yarn stores, but there was knitting. I knit on the planes for sure, and in lounges and in airports, and I knit in the hotel when we were relaxing in between all of our adventures. But I guess I wanted to talk to you about knitting and travel. Do you take, number one, how many projects do you take when you travel? I was gone for less than a week, and I only took 2 projects because I didn't want to be, I didn't want to have too much stuff, and I wasn't sure how much knitting time I'd have anyway. One of those was a pair of socks, and I hadn't done a lot of knitting on them, so there was a lot of knitting to be done, and I thought, if I finish these socks and I really need to do something else, I know I'll have sock yarn left over, so I could just start another pair of socks. But my other question is, so number one, how many projects do you take with you? And number 2, do you bring knitwear with you while you travel? The weather in New York was cool, but not cold for us. We're used to real cold, and it wasn't raining. So a scarf was a really nice accessory to bring with me to keep me warm, and I could take it off and put it on. So I took my Stephen West Geo Gradient shawl, which was great. I took this sweater, which is my Marseille sweater. I don't know if you remember this one. And funnily enough, this type of sweater, a cream sweater with dark horizontal stripes, is very on trend. There's lots of them in the store, so I was proud of myself for having one that I had just made, and that was very on trend. So that's exciting. So I brought this, and I also brought my tessellated vest because I thought, again, it's a nice layering piece for depending on what the weather's like. So do you bring your knitwear, and do you wear it while you travel? I guess that's a question for everyday life too. Do you wear the things that you knit? I know I do. I have one sweater that I've made. It's a cardigan, and it is my house cardigan. So if I'm cold, I put that thing on, and it's great. It doesn't get out of the house much, but it gets a lot of wear. And I have lots of sweaters, some like for different purposes. Some I wear more around the house, some I wear more going out, but I definitely wear my knitwear, whether I'm at home or traveling. I have to apologize for Blue. He is a little clingy now that we're back. He needs some attention and love. So I did bring some knitwear, and I definitely wore it while we were out and about. But the cool thing was I also saw other people wearing knitwear that I recognized. I saw people knitting in airports, waiting for planes, which I think is the perfect place to knit, really, if you're going to knit. But I also saw people wandering around New York wearing knitwear. In fact, one, most notably, was a woolen honey sweater. I'll pop a picture here. That I have knit this sweater also. And it was really nice to see familiar patterns to me out in the world. So do you watch for knits, and do you notice when other people are wearing their hand knits? I think sometimes we feel a little bit self-conscious because it's something that we've made, and so maybe we think that it's not something that is good enough to wear out and about, or we should be wearing. But or maybe other people will look at us and say, "Oh, that's definitely handmade." But I've always had great experiences wearing the things that I've made. Often people compliment them or comment on the things that I've made, and and sometimes they don't even know that I've made them, and they ask where I bought it. So, do you wear your hand knits out and about, and are you self-conscious about it, or do you just wear them like they're a part of your wardrobe, which they absolutely are? So yes, those are my thoughts on the travel. Not so much about New York, because New York is New York and it was great. But it was interesting to see people knitting and the wear that I got out of my hand knits, and then also seeing other people wearing their hand knits. It was great. And we had a great trip. So let me show you some of the things that I have been working on in the last couple of weeks. I have to say, I have shifted a little bit into kind of gift knitting mode. And I don't know if you're there, or if you've been there for a little while, or you just don't knit for other people. Any of those things are perfect with me. But I have started working on some gifts. I do have a little stockpile that I was just checking actually earlier today of socks mostly that I have knit throughout the year. And the Great Sock Tube project of 2023, where I knit a sock tube every month, has been a great way to compile gifts for people in my family. I have finished a sherbet bandana. I have finished a couple of sherbet bandanas, and this is, to me, my Sophie scarf of 2023. The sherbet bandana is a free pattern. It is knit in Aran weight yarn, and this Aran weight yarn is fluffy fantastic. It is some Big Birdie, a yarn that I picked up at Lamb and Kid in Bainbridge Island when I was there in the fall. And these are leftovers from my Wavy Gravy wrap. I'm going to pop a picture of my Wavy Gravy wrap here so you can see. I love that scarf. It is so cozy. But here's some little scarves that I have made, trying to use up the leftovers. And they are, some of them are wackier than others. And I'm trying to sort of branch out and stretch my use of color a little bit. So you can see here, I started out on this bright pink section. I moved into black and then red with a few little sort of light blue stripes. And this one, I realized after I had made the second one that I made this one a little bigger than the pattern recommends, which is fine. It just used up a little more yarn than maybe I would have liked. But this is how I would wear this cute little sherbet bandana. So cute, colorful accessory. You can also tie it in the front like this. I've seen people model them in pictures over their heads, like a kerchief, if you will. And you don't have a lot of hair, it doesn't make a lot of sense to wear it this way, but you could. You could wear it this way. So yeah, it's a cute, oh, that was a mistake. It's a cute little accessory, and I'm using leftovers of a really lovely yarn. So that was my first sherbet bandana. And then I made another one on the plain trips. This one is much more subdued. I used that pale blue sort of just as a tip at the end. And then I had bought one skein of this neutral color because I thought it would be great for making these sherbet bandanas and would work with a lot of the colors. So the rest of it is just this oatmeal-y color. It's called Gently Toasted. And I thought this one might be nice. That one little colored end sticking out. So this one is a little bit shorter, but I think these are just long enough to sit around your neck without being, without feeling like you need to fuss with them. And again, you could, if you wanted, you could just tie this in the back. Or I guess if you wanted, you could wear it this way to keep your neck warm. So these little kerchiefs, much like the Sophie scarf, I think there's lots of, well, if I can only tie this correctly, there's lots of ways to wear them, depending on your style and the color and what you like. and they're a warm little accessory without adding a lot of bulk. So this is Gift Production 2023. So I have 2 of them completed, and I have 1 more on my needles, which I will show you when I get to the things I'm working on. I have also finished a couple of pairs of socks in the last couple weeks. These ones are my November sock tube. So if you remember, I was working up 1 sock tube a month into a pair of socks, and this was November's. This is a colorway by Mustache Yarns. Yes, Mustache Yarns. They are dyers out of Texas, I believe. And this is the Ray colorway, which is a Star Wars reference. And I used leftovers from my Geo Gradient shawl for the heels, cuffs, and toes. That's the great thing about that Stephen West knit along. Often I have little bits and bobs of fingering weight yarns left over, and I often end up using a sock yarn that has a bit of nylon in it. So the leftovers are really great for things like heels, cuffs, and toes. So those are my November sock tubes off the needles. This is a 60 stitch tube. So it fits my foot, which is a woman's about 7.5 or 8 in US sizes, about a size maybe 38 if you're European. So those are my November sock tubes, and I have another project off the needles, and these ones you only saw a very little snippet of them the last time, and these are the Grannies in a Row sock pattern. I was working on these on the airplane, and it turns out they were a really great project for that. Oh, don't they look good? I had decided I was going to use this West Yorkshire Spinners holiday colorway, which I'm not sure if you can see the sparkle, but oh yeah, maybe. It is a holiday colorway called Vintage Fairy Lights, and it sparkles. And so I went through my stash and I found some minis of the colors of the stripes so that I could pick that up. So I have the pink, the red, and the blue to sort of pick up those stripes in between the greens. I used milk bottle West Yorkshire Spinners for the granny squares and the heels and the toes. And when I was knitting these, I decided I would do a butterfly heel, which is a heel by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears. This is a heel that you work with increases and decreases, and it's a paid for pattern, so I'm not going to spoil it, but it is the heel from the Fairground socks, which I have also worked, and I liked it so much I thought I'd just throw it into these socks. The reason I really like this heel is because it is worked as you work the sock down, so I didn't have to pick up stitches later like I would for an afterthought heel, and it doesn't disrupt the striping pattern. So if you see here, all of these stripes remain the same width. And it seems to fit my foot really well. So these are my Grannies in a Row socks. And to make sure that the stripes here and the stripes here matched, I worked from the inside of the ball. Once I think last time you saw, I had these granny squares in sort of a circlet or a cuff. And then I picked up stitches on the bottom and I worked my way down from the inside of the ball, and I worked the whole sock. And then I did the same for the other sock. So I picked up these stitches and worked my way down. And then I went back to one of the socks and using the outside of the ball of yarn, I picked up stitches here and worked my way up. Because from the inside of the ball, the colors were coming out in pink, red, blue. And then once I switched to the outside of the ball, they were going in the opposite direction. They were going blue, red, pink. So I used the inside of the ball for the body of the sock. And then at the end, I pulled from the outside of the ball to get these stripes so that they all sort of are going in the same direction. So it's pink, red, blue, pink, red, blue, pink, red, blue. And what a fun pair of socks. Now, will I make these again? I don't know. It was a bit of an experiment for me. And as you remember, I didn't quite do the granny squares correctly. So it could be that I decide to try these again paying more attention to how I do my granny squares. But I do think they're a very cute sock, and I do think they're quite festive. And I'm glad I tried that out. The Grannies in a Row pattern is available on Ravelry. It's a pattern by Jen Yard, and it's very cute and very timely, since crochet and granny squares in particular seem to be everywhere. And there we go. So that is all the things I have off my needles for now. I have been working on yet another sherbet bandana, and I will definitely be including this pattern or linking it in the show notes below. It's a free pattern, and it knits up using Aran weight yarn, but I think you could use a nice worsted if you have some leftovers. I think you could use some DK Help Double. So searching your stash for some yarn that you could use for this free pattern is a great idea. This is the beginning of my third sherbet bandana. I have this toffee, maybe, color that I worked till almost the center of the scarf, but I ran out. So I switched to blue, and I stuck in some red stripes until I ran out of red. Used up the rest of my blue, and now I'm onto this toasted bandana, gently toasted color to finish the end. And I have about this much. I have exactly this much left over. So I'm going to finish this one off, and then I might stash dive or peruse what I have to make one final sherbet bandana. They're a super easy pattern, very beginner friendly. I think that it lends itself to stash busting, so I definitely recommend you try that. And like me, I'm using leftovers and making crazy color combinations, but I think in a little scarf around your neck, you can do that. You can make super colorful and fun combinations because it's just a cute little accessory. And finally, I have something you haven't seen before. In fact, I don't even know if I had the yarn the last time I saw you. A friend and I have been very interested in knitting fluffy vests this season, and it took me a while to find the pattern that I wanted to knit. I've been loving my tessellated vest, and I wanted another one, but maybe something like bulkier and more sort of neutral that I could wear, just throw on over a long sleeve t-shirt or a short sleeve t-shirt for that matter. And so I went shopping with a friend of mine to a store in Sherwood Park, which is an adjoining community to Edmonton. So it took us probably 25 minutes to get to this store. So it's not that far. And they have Drops Air, which is part of the reason I went there. The store's name is Statement Junkie, and Statement Junkie is a really lovely shop to have near me because it carries a lot of yarns that aren't at other yarn stores that I often go to. So the yarn store I go to most often is the Fiber Nook, partly because I teach there and partly because it's the closest to me. And they have a great selection of yarn. Statement Junkie is a little bit farther, and they have also a great selection of yarn, but different yarns. Isn't that great? I love how these stores complement each other so well. There's another store in St. Albert, which is another, that one's a little bit farther. It's probably half an hour away from me. And it, again, carries a great yarn selection, but different to the other yarn shops in the area. So to have so much selection available to me is really delightful, actually. So a friend and I drove out to Statement Junkie, and I picked up some Drops Air. Drops Air is this lovely stuff. It's a blown yarn, so if we just look at a strand of it, the core is, how about that? The core is, I believe, merino wool. Let me check. Nope, I don't have the label close to me. Why don't I just look at it? So the core of this yarn is merino wool, and then fibers of alpaca are blown into it. It's got a really lovely depth of color. Like it's not just, this one is not just a really pale pink. It's sort of got some tonality to it. So it's really a lovely yarn. This is called Drops Air, and it's described as a medium thick blown yarn made of baby alpaca and merino wool. It is an Aran weight, and I'm using color 33. There is a little bit of nylon in here too, and I'm assuming that that's in that core. So I'm not sure if we can zoom in. I don't know how much we can zoom in, but the yarn, it's very soft, and it's also very light because alpaca is such a light fiber, but also very warm. And because it's blown in, it traps a lot of air, so it will keep you warm without a lot of weight. I waffled a lot on what pattern to knit. One of the ones I really liked was very colorful, but a very boxy sweater. And I wasn't sure that that would be the most flattering shape on me. So I ended up going with the Stockholm Slipover by Petite Knit. I have knit this before. This is what mine looks like. In fact, I wore it not very long ago. I decided to knit the same pattern with this thicker yarn. The first time I made it, I marled, and I used 2 fingering weight yarns held together. And so that slipover has a very marled look, and it's also not as lofty or as airy, so it is warm. It's also quite cropped because I only had so much yarn to work with, so it's relatively cropped. This version I'm making is more oversized in the sense that I've given myself more positive ease. Positive ease is when you take your own measurement, your actual physical body measurement, and you add inches to figure out what size of sweater or garment you want to make. So for me, I think I added 4 maybe inches of positive ease, and this is where I'm at. The way that this slipover works is you start by casting on stitches on the back, and you work that down to the armhole, and then you go back and you pick up some stitches along your cast on edge. So along here, I picked up some stitches and I worked down to the bottom of the neck right here. And then I did the same on the other side, and then I joined them and worked that down until my 2 sides matched, my front and my back. And then I joined in the round, and that's where I'm at. I have so far used 2 and a bit balls of yarn, and I do have a couple, so I have lots of yarn. And I think it's going to be lots of fun. I think it'll be a nice, like, cozy, I'm hoping for oversize. And I think I'm getting there. This is the width of my vest, so I think it will be quite cozy and oversized. At this point, though, it's a little bit difficult to assess how oversized it will be, just because I haven't done the ribbings yet. So once you do the armhole ribbing here, that will pull this in a little bit, and it won't be quite so gapey. And then once I do the neck hole, that too will bring that in. I'm hoping for a snugger fit around the neck, and in fact, I'm glad I'm wearing this sweater today to show you, because I was thinking about copying this neckline or this ribbing for this slipover. Now I'm hoping this neck hole isn't too big. Oh, I think it'll be okay. Once I knit about this much and do a doubled over collar, much like this one is, this one has, I believe, a row of pearls right here for the turning edge, which makes it sit really nicely around your neck. And so I'm thinking that that's what I'll do for this one. So I'm sort of merging a couple of Petite Knit pattern ideas. This one also I'm knitting at a larger gauge, so I'm using a heavier yarn and bigger needles than the pattern calls for, because I was looking for that oversized, roomy look. But I am knitting a smaller size than I would have. I don't have my thing right here. So I went down a size based on the gauge that I was getting, and I went up a needle size to make sure I was getting this lovely lofty fabric. And it's got a lot of nice drape, and I think you can see that this yarn does have a lot of tonality to it. So it's not a super flat color, which I like. And I was looking for something very neutral. This has been very, very quick to knit because especially now I'm just on stockinette and I knit round and round and round. So that's been easy and I'm really enjoying it. I'm looking forward to combining this neckline with this slip over to create a cozy winter garment. And I think it'll be really nice for layering. And that is all of the things I have on my needles today. I'm in that sort of slow run up to Christmas where I'm starting to think about holiday shopping, decorating. In fact, I think my husband and I might be going out this afternoon to have a look at some Christmas ornaments or decorations. So it's fun. Christmas is starting to happen here. I certainly have friends who have already fully decked out their houses in Christmas as soon as it was November 1st. And I love that, but I'm not there. It's going to take me a little bit of time to sort of settle in and get ready for the holidays. However, I have come up with some baking ideas and I think I have settled on the things that I'll be baking for Christmas this year. I often do a lot of baking. I think I get that from my mother and my grandmother. There's always lots of desserts and they're very good bakers. And so I certainly have the things that I like to make every year, and I'm going to share some of those with you. My plan is to do a little bit of baking with you in the next couple of episodes to show you some of the things that we like to have at the holidays or some of the treats that we like to make. I think next time it'll be butter tart squares because I'm already thinking about them. So join me in a couple weeks where I'll be hopefully doing a little bit more holiday preparation, some baking, some more knitting, and some chatting with you. So thanks so much for joining me, and I hope in the next couple of weeks you find time to do the things that you like to do. I know I plan on knitting a lot. See you soon.